Yeah, like I always try to borrow from people who are a lot smarter than me, borrow ideas, and one of them is Warren Buffett. And so, like, if you look at like he's one example of an investor who's been through a lot of ups and downs, and he's in the stock market a little bit more than we are in the real estate market, but it's very applicable. And one of his main premises that he uses as an investor is that trying to predict the market, trying to predict the future, is like a fool's game. I mean, as smart as he is, he's brilliant. Very few of us are going to be able to understand finance and numbers and the markets like he is. And yet he still says that no one consistently can predict what's going to happen 6 months from now, 9 months from now. Now, that doesn't mean that like we stick our head in the sand and say, wow, we're just going to ignore the fact that the market's changing and it's really competitive. Like, no, it's not that we ignore it. The distinction that I try to make for myself is that instead of trying to be a person who predicts the market, I'm a person who prepares for the market. And I look at it like I'm not a martial artist who does Aikido, but I've always respected like Aikido martial artists or karate. And, a lot of those that these people are very calm and balanced in the midst of a fight, like a martial, that's like a war fight. They're very calm and they're prepared for things to come in any direction. And so I would compare like a deal maker in real estate is someone who is prepared for all the bad things that could happen. So the market could crash, prices could go down, the financial market could change. There could be lots of foreclosures. But on the other hand, you know what's also possible? We could have another 5 or 10 year run because of things outside of our control where prices continue to go up, where interest rates stay low. It could be, instead of going up, it could just be flat. And so I guess my point is, and this is Warren Buffett's point, is none of us are really smart enough. It's kind of just entertainment to try to make predictions of what's going to happen for the next 6 to 12 months. But a smart investor prepares for all of those. And so a deal maker, kind of like playing, doing martial arts, you got to prepare your defense. So you got to make sure you're not vulnerable in case the market crashes, in case, do you have cash reserves? Do you have loans that are not that dangerous? Do you have fixed interest loans that can last through the next 5 or 10 years? Do you have, the cash reserves are really important. In 2008, when I was, my business partner and I were still young, newer investors, we bought a lot of properties. We made a lot of mistakes, but we were able to like kind of get through those mistakes because we had long-term mortgages with decent interest rates that weren't kind of coming due, that we had to refinance them right in the middle of a recession. That was a big deal. We also had cash reserves. So we made mistakes, but we were able to overcome our mistakes because we set aside a lot of cash. We didn't live on the edge of our cash budget. And this is like 101 finance advice that people make. Hey, have 3 to 6 months of cash reserves set aside. Well, in your real estate business, or if you're an entrepreneur of any type, you should have the same thing. Like whatever your overhead is, whatever your payroll is, whatever your mortgage payments plus all your taxes, insurance, maintenance, and all that, you should have 3 to 6 months of cash set aside. And if you're living below that, you're living on the edge. Like if we do have a bubble, if we do have a crash, you're not being that Aikido, warrior who's prepared for anything. So I guess that's my main point is like play a little bit of defense, get your finances in order. That stuff's not sexy. It's not something that everybody likes to talk about. Whatever happens over the next 6 to 9 months. Now let's talk about offense. Let's talk about strategy for getting deals in a market that's really competitive. Let's talk about getting financing through creative sources, maybe that reduce your risk or lower your interest rate. Like there's all sorts of things we could talk about, but I think that paradigm of being a prepared person instead of a predicting person who's always scared about what's going to happen next, that's a totally different kind of mindset that I think the successful investors really try to take.
Yeah, and one undervalued principle I think of house hacking that I certainly never thought of until afterwards, and we hear over and over and over again is when you have, let's just say a side-by-side duplex, and have to consider 2 furnaces, 2 water heaters, 2 roofs, it most people, and I know for myself and the clients and people that I've helped house hack, they automatically start saving at a higher rate, and it's kind of that compounding, that the whole FI community gets over time, where you start to think about it more, you start to save at a higher rate. And so, yeah, I mean, that, I think a lot of people, especially in our community that listen to this podcast, they really get and understand a lot of that saving. And so, we really appreciate that aspect of it.